Alchemical secrets, the quest to create gold in medieval times. Throughout medieval Europe, the search for transmutation, the transformation of base metals into gold, captured the imaginations of scholars, mystics, and monarchs alike. Alchemy was far more than a primitive form of chemistry. It was an elaborate and deeply symbolic practice that merged natural philosophy, mysticism, and proto-scientific experimentation. At its heart lay the elusive quest for the philosopher's stone, a legendary substance believed to unlock the secrets of matter, heal all illnesses, and grant eternal life. The pursuit of this miraculous goal shaped medieval intellectual life, informed early scientific thinking, and left a lasting legacy that echoes in the modern age, touching literature, science, and even modern psychology. The philosophical and spiritual foundations of alchemy. To understand medieval alchemy, one must recognize its profound philosophical and spiritual dimensions. Rooted in ancient Egyptian, Greek, and Arabic traditions, alchemy framed the material world as a reflection of spiritual realities. It was deeply influenced by the Hermetic tradition, particularly the Hermetica, a collection of mystical texts attributed to Hermes Trismegistus, a mythical sage who symbolized the fusion of Greek and Egyptian wisdom. This collection posited that all things were interconnected and that material transformation mirrored spiritual ascent. In this worldview, metals were not static substances but living entities evolving toward perfection. Gold was the highest form of metal, embodying purity, incorruptibility, and divine perfection. Base metals like lead and iron were seen as immature or corrupted forms that, under the right conditions, could be perfected into gold. This belief mirrored the Christian idea of spiritual transformation. Just as the soul could be redeemed and perfected through divine grace, so too could base matter ascend to nobility. Alchemy viewed the universe as composed of a subtle interplay of four elements: earth, air, fire, and water, and the three primes or tria prima: salt, sulfur, and mercury. Mastery over these forces was believed to bring about profound transformations, both material and spiritual. The alchemical process, magnum opus. The magnum opus, or great work, was the term used to describe the alchemist's grand project. It typically consisted of several stages, each laden with symbolic and practical meaning. Though descriptions varied, the most commonly cited stages were: nigredo, blackening, a phase of decomposition and putrefaction, symbolizing death and the breaking down of material and spiritual impurities. In this darkness, the alchemist faced the corruption within both matter and self. Albedo, whitening, a phase of purification, where the material was cleansed and stripped of its imperfections, corresponding to spiritual rebirth and the washing away of sin. Citrinitas, yellowing, representing the dawning of spiritual enlightenment and the first appearance of gold-like qualities, a stage often seen as bridging the material and divine. Rubedo, reddening, the culmination of the process, in which the material reached perfection and the philosopher's stone could be obtained. Here, the union of opposites was achieved. Each of these stages was reflected not just in physical experiments but also in the alchemist's internal, spiritual journey. The true alchemist, it was believed, had to purify his own soul alongside his material work, achieving a divine state of balance and understanding. Notable figures in medieval alchemy. Several prominent figures stand out in the history of medieval alchemy, each contributing to its intellectual and mystical traditions. Jabir ibn Hayyan, Geber, an 8th century polymath whose writings formed a cornerstone of both Islamic and European alchemy. He introduced experimental methodology to alchemy and described various chemical processes such as distillation and crystallization. Albertus Magnus, a 13th century German Dominican friar and scholar, Albertus reportedly isolated arsenic and wrote extensively about minerals, believing in the possibility of transmutation. Roger Bacon, an English philosopher who advocated for empirical observation and experimentation. Though his work encompassed optics and linguistics, Bacon also speculated about alchemical transmutation. Nicolas Flamel, a 14th-century French scribe and manuscript seller who posthumously became a legendary alchemist, rumored to have discovered the philosopher's stone. Though these legends are likely apocryphal, they reflect the enduring mystique surrounding alchemy. Arnaldus de Villanova, a Catalan physician and alchemist whose influence spread across Europe. He blended medical knowledge with alchemical ideas, contributing to both pharmacology and mystical science. Deeper dive into specific medieval alchemical texts. Several medieval alchemical texts reveal the blend of mysticism, symbolism, and practical experimentation that defined the tradition. The Book of the Holy Trinity, written in Germany in the 15th century, framed the alchemical process as an allegory of Christ's passion, death, and resurrection. In this text, transmutation mirrored the soul's journey to salvation. Aurora Consurgens, attributed to Thomas Aquinas but more likely penned by an anonymous author, presented alchemical knowledge through vivid visionary imagery. It connected the stages of the magnum opus with psychological and spiritual growth, presenting a powerful fusion of alchemical theory and Christian mysticism. Other key works include the Turba Philosophorum, a dialogue among ancient sages that emphasized the unity of all creation, and the Rosarium Philosophorum, a text known for its elaborate symbolic woodcuts illustrating the alchemical wedding of opposites. These works, richly illustrated and highly allegorical, emphasized the secretive and initiatory nature of true alchemical knowledge. Alchemy's interaction with the Church and accusations of heresy. The relationship between alchemy and the medieval Church was complex. While many Church authorities viewed alchemy as a legitimate pursuit of natural knowledge, particularly when framed within a Christian context, others regarded it with deep suspicion. The fear that alchemy could lead to counterfeit coinage, fraudulent claims of miracle working, or heretical theological positions made alchemists vulnerable to persecution. Certain practices, especially those hinting at human pride in achieving divine powers, were condemned. Papal bulls such as Spondent Quas non exhibent, 1317, issued by Pope John XXII warned against deceitful alchemical practices. However, clerical scholars like Albertus Magnus and Roger Bacon continued to engage with alchemy, illustrating the nuanced and often ambiguous stance the Church maintained toward the discipline. In addition to skepticism, some Church mystics saw alchemical symbolism as metaphorical for the Christian path. The transformation of base metals into gold became an allegory for the redemption of humanity through Christ's grace. Alchemy in Islamic and Chinese traditions and their influence on medieval Europe. Islamic scholars preserved and expanded upon ancient Greek and Egyptian alchemical traditions. Figures like Jabir ibn Hayyan, al-Razi, and Al-Turai advanced practical chemistry and theorized about the transmutation of metals. Their works, translated into Latin in medieval Spain, profoundly influenced European alchemy. Concepts like the elixir and techniques such as distillation and sublimation entered European alchemical thought through these Islamic sources. Meanwhile, in China, Taoist alchemy developed independently, focusing more on internal spiritual transformation and the quest for immortality. Though distinct from Western practices, Chinese alchemical theories about the unity of matter and the transformative power of natural forces paralleled European ideas. Indirect cultural exchanges along trade routes like the Silk Road introduced Europeans to exotic materials and new philosophical concepts that subtly shaped medieval alchemical thought. Alchemy in the Islamic world emphasized practical experimentation, while Taoist alchemy focused on achieving balance between yin and yang, demonstrating the varied global approaches to matter and spirit. Alchemical symbolism in art and architecture. Alchemy found expression not only in texts but also in medieval art and architecture. Gothic cathedrals, with their intricate stone carvings and stained glass windows, often incorporated alchemical symbols such as the Ouroboros, the green lion devouring the sun, and the phoenix. Illustrated alchemical manuscripts, like the Splendor Solis and the Mutus Liber, depicted the transformative process through allegorical scenes. These images used vibrant colors and fantastic creatures to represent chemical operations, spiritual trials, and cosmic forces. In architecture, the use of certain proportions and geometrical forms, that sacred geometry, was believed to embody alchemical principles of harmony, balance, and transformation. Thus, alchemy shaped not only intellectual discourse but also the very aesthetic fabric of medieval life, influencing the design of spaces meant to elevate the spirit toward the divine. Specific experiments and legendary failures. While many alchemists proceeded sincerely, their experiments often ended in failure, giving rise to legends of spectacular mishaps. One infamous story concerns the 14th-century English alchemist George Ripley, who purportedly produced gold and donated vast sums to the Knights Hospitaller. Though largely legendary, such tales reflect the persistent belief in the possibility of success. Practical experiments involved heating, mixing, and distilling various substances, mercury, sulfur, salt, lead, and antimony being favorites. Attempts to create the red powder or projection powder that would catalyze transmutation often ended with explosions or toxic fumes. An especially notable case was that of Edward Kelly, who, in the court of Rudolph II, claimed to have discovered the philosopher's stone but was later imprisoned and died under mysterious circumstances. His story exemplifies the perilous blend of hope, fraud, and tragedy that surrounded the alchemical quest. Others, like the pseudo-alchemist Sendivogius, mixed real advances in chemical processes with colorful exaggerations about secret knowledge. Royal patronage and secret societies. The allure of gold and promises of inexhaustible wealth attracted the attention of monarchs and nobles. Many rulers sponsored alchemists in the hope that their discoveries would fund military campaigns, build palaces, and fill royal treasuries. For instance, Holy Roman Emperor Rudolph II was an avid patron of alchemists, gathering them in his court at Prague. English monarchs like Edward IV and Henry VI also employed royal alchemists, believing that success in transmutation could ensure national prosperity. Alchemical knowledge, shrouded in secrecy to protect its sacred nature, and perhaps to hide failures, often circulated within clandestine societies. Texts were written in elaborate allegories and ciphers, accessible only to initiates deemed worthy of understanding their true meanings. The Rosicrucian manifestos of the early 17th century, though appearing later, were deeply rooted in these medieval traditions of secret alchemical brotherhoods and hinted at an invisible college of wise adepts. Challenges and dangers. Alchemy was not without its perils. Failed experiments could produce poisonous gases, explosive reactions, and financial ruin. Moreover, because alchemy bordered on heresy and sorcery, alchemists occasionally found themselves the target of suspicion, persecution, or outright execution. Nonetheless, many persisted, driven by visions of untold riches, spiritual fulfillment, or the pure quest for knowledge. Alchemy represented a rare space where practical experimentation and metaphysical speculation intertwined, forging a new way of approaching the mysteries of nature. The boldness of their vision paved the way for modern scientific methods. The legacy of medieval alchemy. While medieval alchemists did not succeed in producing gold from base metals, their efforts were far from futile. Their experimental methods, meticulous record-keeping, and quest to understand material change contributed directly to the emergence of modern chemistry. Figures like Robert Boyle, often regarded as the father of modern chemistry, were deeply influenced by alchemical thought. Alchemy's emphasis on observation, process, and transformation helped establish key scientific principles, even as the mystical and speculative aspects faded with the rise of empirical science. Moreover, the symbolic and philosophical heritage of alchemy persists in contemporary culture. Psychological theorist Carl Jung famously interpreted the stages of the magnum opus as metaphors for personal growth and individuation. Literature, art, and popular media continue to draw on alchemical themes of hidden wisdom, transformation, and the quest for perfection. From the pages of J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter series to the symbolism in modern psychology, alchemy remains alive in imagination. Thus, the medieval quest to create gold was not merely a tale of greed or folly but a profound exploration of the nature of matter, the human soul, and the cosmos itself. Alchemists sought to penetrate the veils of existence, to uncover the hidden harmonies that bound the universe together. In their furnaces and crucibles, they pursued both worldly riches and spiritual transcendence. Though the philosopher's stone remains a myth, the spirit of alchemy, the desire to transform, to perfect, to reveal the unseen, endures. It reminds us that even in our most fantastical quests, we often stumble upon real discoveries that change the world. Alchemy is, at its core, the eternal human aspiration to grasp the mysteries of existence and to find gold, both within the earth and within ourselves. Thanks for listening. Like, comment, and don't forget to subscribe to Medieval Chronicles 1066 for more journeys back to the Middle Ages. Stay curious.